I've been thinking a lot this week about who our leaders ought to be. And it's a fraught question, especially in the last decade or so, right? Conversations about Trump and how he speaks and his personal life and all of that. And my first thought is that, I'm a political realist. So at the end of the day, if you think that the state of American institutions, the state of our institutional and national health is quite bad, that our government agencies, our media, our corporations are all in pretty bad shape, then you're a little, or at least I'm a little bit less concerned with the personal sincerity or genuineness of our political leaders, right? To me, it's more important that you have somebody who's effective at doing the job of government, doing what needs to be done, that they're a role model for the citizens. That being said, it's not ideal. Ideally, we would have both, right? I would very much like to have leaders who I trusted as effective statesmen who knew how to navigate the institutions of government, to effect and enact good policy, and were also role models, right? That made me think a little bit about what the future ought to look like in terms of our government leaders and how we get there. Because ideally, you would have, and this might sound a little bit like the dreams and desires of philosophers rather than reality, but I don't think it has to be, because you've seen historically people who have done both, who in the end are both statesmen and saints, right? That's the ideal. You have great men like Saint Stephen of Hungary, like King Louis IX, like Blessed Karl at the end of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, who managed to be more or less effective leaders, but good leaders, right? Good at actually doing the political and governing work that needs to be done, but also examples of holiness, of lives that should be emulated by the people. And I think that's an ideal that it's really important to recover, because again, the realist in me says, listen, I need effective leaders who know how to get things done that need to be done for the common good. If they're not exemplary in their personal lives, that's not my primary concern. But it is still a concern. In an ideal world, we would have both. So what do we do to cultivate this? I think it's very important that we cultivate well-balanced lives, and that we consider the potential for political life, government life, as something that we should actually encourage the talented people among us, and especially our children, to consider. The ideal leader, right, would be effective in politics, would understand how government works, how politics works, how you actually get things done, build coalitions, maintain power, because you need all of that to actually do the good things that need to be done. But then you also need virtue. So ideally our leaders would be prayerful, would be well-read, would be educated widely, right, in everything from literature and history to philosophy and theology. This is not unrealistic. Right? This is the kind of education that most people in church circles, in the conservative world that I know, most people are trying to raise kids to be this way, to be prayerful, to be successful in their professional and personal lives, to be educated, well-rounded, and so on. But the thing that I worry about is that a lot of these people who are trying to raise good, holy, well-rounded children are gravely mistrustful of politics, and rightly so. They kind of have these tropes about all politicians are corrupt and all of our elites are terrible, and that's more or less true, but it's not an absolute truth, right? But the point is, there's a lot of temptation in politics and in government, and it can be a dangerous, fraught place for someone's soul, right? To maintain their virtue, their holiness, their goodness, and to be in this world of politics, of government. But that doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. Actually, it means all the more that it's really important that we have good people, not easily corruptible people who are smart enough and virtuous enough to actually navigate these and accomplish the good, instead of being taken in by the trappings of wealth and power and influence and all of that. So I guess what I've been thinking a lot about in recent months is that we should not close off government, statesmanship, politics as, oh, that's bad. That's for the people of the world. That's not for people like us. We're trying to live better lives than this. No, the the best among us are those who should be involved in politics and in government and in legislation and all of that, or else we're just going to be governed by worse people than we could have. So I guess my takeaway is we should be encouraging our children, our friends, our family among the most virtuous and the most apt, those who show the talent for law, for politics, for government. They should not be dissuaded from it as that's a bad career or a bad path. They're exactly the ones who should be encouraged to do it. If we don't take those who are inclined toward statesmanship, toward government, toward politics, and encourage them to be open to that, then we'll lose the best hope for future leaders.